Okay, we're back at this again. One thing I forgot to, when we put the breather and stuff in there, I forgot to tell you one way you double check to make sure you didn't knock your crank out of true is you go ahead and rotate the flywheels and you see if it moves at all. See if the crank is still spinning true. You didn't bend it. So that's just a double check. We always do double checks on everything we do in here. Otherwise you can get in trouble. Okay, I gotta find a spot where the motor is comfortable to be set at. Put it kind of where you can see also. Okay, I went ahead and lubricated the gears in here, so now there's oil on them too now. It's kind of important not to be dry. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our cams here. I've already did the shim checking before. So I'm going to go ahead and lay these all up in here. So I got 15 thou shims here on the number 1, 3, and 4 cam. And the number 2 cam, which is the distributor drive cam, we only got a 6.5, 7 thou shim. So this here's the number 2 cam. And on Sportsters are marked over here. On 45, some are marked, some aren't. These ones aren't. So these have no markings on them. So you have to figure it out yourself. It's not very hard to tell. Number 1 cam is your oil pump drive, so it has a gear on it. It has 2 titties on there for driving your oil pump. Pretty straightforward on this. On a Sportster, the number 3 and number 1 cam look the same because there's no oil pump drive. K-model same way. So the way you tell the difference is the number 1 cam, which is your rear intake back here, only has one timing mark right here. The number 3 cam, which is your front intake, because you go 1, 2, 3, 4, it has 2 marks. Now the marks can be going down, or the marks can be going up. The down is the correct way, the up is the incorrect way. And if you reverse it, the lobe is in a different spot. See, it makes a big difference, believe me. So you got to make sure you do that. The number 2 cam always has your distributor drive gear on it, or it has the electronic ignition, or mechanical advance curve for the cone motor drive on this end. It always has some kind of a drive on the number 2 cam. Plus number 2 cam has 3 timing marks, 1, 2, and 3. This goes to number 3 cam, this goes to number 1 cam, this goes to your crank. Crank's down here. There's a mark right there. The number 4 cam only has 1 mark on it. It's nice and dirty, so you can't see it right now. There it is. It's right here. It's only got 1 mark. Now some of these in the old days had 2 marks. They were for racing when you had magnetos in the front. Pretty rare. So most of them only have 1 mark. This one only has 1 mark. And so pretty straightforward. So it could be screwed up, but it'd be pretty hard to do it. Now getting all the timing marks lined up is a whole different deal. That gets to be interesting at times. Okay, we're going to go ahead and lube this thing up. Now 45s do not have cam plates in here. They have bronze bushings that they push against. Sportsters have needle bearings with thrust plates because they don't have this thrust washer surface. So even though the motors are basically the same, they're different. But you can make the parts interchange if you do a little machining though. And I have been known to do stuff like that. Okay, so we got that in there. So now I take my cam. I like to lubricate the hell out of these things. So first thing we do is we lubricate the lobe, because you always want oil in that. And then you got the journal right there, the bearing surface. In this case, the bushing. Then we have a thrust washer right here, thick one, goes in. Then I put a little bit of oil right there for that. And make sure that's well lubed. And then I get the gear teeth. The gear teeth, I just put oil around it. Just like that. Ready for insertion. Boom, it's in. Go ahead and put your single timing mark over here, lined up with the number 2 camshaft right there. That's about where the mark is. Okay, next one we do is we got to do the other short gear. Now, this gear here goes behind this one, so if you put this one in, this one won't go down. So you have to do the small ones first. Single gears first, double gears last. Don't forget. Okay, this one here, we're going to do the same thing we did before. Put a lube on that. It takes a thick shim. Now the cam shims, I usually like having them around, if I put them in at all, you run 8 to 12 thou. It doesn't really matter if you got anywhere from 5 to 50 thou, they don't make no difference. It's a roller bearing cam, it doesn't care. That's 3/8 of an inch wide. The roller doesn't care if you move it 20 or 30 thou or 50 thou, one way or the other. It does not care. The straight tooth gears don't kill you. They don't care either. The only one that does matter is your distributor drive gear, because it affects ignition timing as it goes in and out. Because it's on the worm gear. It does matter. On a later Sportster, 71 and later, they just have a mechanical advance that goes on the end of the cam, and it doesn't matter where it is either, because it's on points. Points don't care if you go in and out. It's only on these older style distributor motors that it matters. And surprisingly, they use the same cam gear diameters and center lines as a brand new Sportster, all the way up to 16. They haven't changed them yet. You can actually put these cams in each of the bikes. You can't run them because the lengths are different, but they will go in the holes and rotate. It's amazing how much Harley doesn't change stuff. Okay, this one has 2 gears on it, so you lubricate both. This other one's going to run the generator drive, so make it in there. Okay, now we got to make this timing mark line up. So the marks are right there. Stick it in there and line it up with the other one, like that. Now it might go here, or it might go over here. As I recall, it goes over here, which means we're a tooth off. Yeah, there it goes. But if you look at it, it does not line up very well when I do that. So I'll probably go back where I just had it. Now that's going to be really hard for you to see. Let me blow that up real good. Yeah, I don't think you're really going to be able to see it anyway, but anyway, there's a mark right here, and there's a mark right here on the shaft, and right now they are like half a tooth off. So if you have the gear way over here, it lines up. If you have the gear over here, it doesn't line up. So actually, I think that probably isn't the right spot, because the gear don't sit here. It actually sits over here. Okay, so now we got to put the number 2 cam in here. Now this one here has 3 timing marks that we got to deal with. So, like I said, this one goes on the crank. Where are we at? Get a mark right here. Got a mark over here for number 2, and I got a mark over here for number 1. And we have to put a shim on here too. So all of that has to be done at the same time. And sometimes the marks can go either way, because they're not marked very good. That makes it really fun to figure out. Oop, there we go. Double gear, twice as much oil, see? Alright. Take your 3 timing marks, rotate it. Crank mark goes down low, way down there. Now I can go in here and insert. I gotta get where I can see it, so you're gonna have to pull back. Okay, make sure all the other marks are there. Rotate the crank slightly so it lines up. Drop it in. Start guessing which ones go where. This is engaged, this is engaged. This back one's not engaged. I have to guess which tooth I'm going to go to. I'm in between 2. I'm going to go with that one. Wiggle around until it pops in the hole. Shove it in. Now you go look to see if you got it accurate. So it appears that I got it on the first shot. What a shocker. So now we blow this up, you can see what's going on here. Hopefully. Maybe. So you can see that little mark right there is lined up. You can see the mark right here, way back here. It's lined up with this gear on the shaft. This one here, right here, lined up. And then this one over here is lined up with that one. So all those have to be lined up. And when they are, you're good. Now I don't give a squat where the hell the damn flywheels are at. I don't care about no stupid timing marks over here. I don't care which rod is up or down. I don't care. All I care about is that mark right there is on that mark right there. And there goes the antlers. So it doesn't matter about where the crank is. This gear is the crank. If it lines up with that cam, you're correct. It doesn't matter about anything else. Okay, so now once you got that part in there, then we have our idler gear for our generator drive. And I got to put the washer on here also. I'm going to put that washer to the inside because that's where it belongs. Now that does knock the gear spacing slightly off when you do that because the offset in this gear is different from side to side. But when I put the shim on that gear, it came out a little bit. So if you watch the previous video, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a groove in here. I try to fill the groove full of oil because this is only splash lubricated. We don't want to have it run dry too much. There we go. Okay, now this can go on two different ways. So you can have it this way, which sits flat, or you can have it this way. Yep, there goes my washer. Put that back in. This way, and it sticks way out. So see that's not even at all? That would be the incorrect direction. So you flip it back around and put it on the correct direction. So when these gears are flush, or damn near it, then you're good to go. So we're pretty flush right now. Now I don't lubricate the idler gear because it's got oil from this one when it runs. But if you want to put a little bit on there, you can. It's up to you. Yep. Okay. So once again, all our gears are lined up. All your timing marks are lined up. And like I said, you can rotate these back and forth and look at them, make sure it's how you want them. But that's what matters. Okay, I'm going to shut this off, go get the cam cover gasket, and we'll come back and button up the rest of the cam cover. Okay, we got the gasket here, ready to go. Here's our cam cover. Now before you put these on, there's a couple things you need to look at. Obviously you need to make sure all your bushings were good. Already did that before. You want to make sure that this spring-loaded baffle here is working. There it goes. Not bound up. Because that's what the breather, your generator gear has a slinger on it that pushes up against this. And this goes in and out depending on where the generator is at. You know, once you put it in, it's at the preset point. And that makes your breather work correctly. The other thing is this is your breather cavity. You need to make sure this is cleaned out and not full of crap in there. Very important. This here is your breather tube. It goes up inside your cavity here. Yep, same direction. Goes like that. Now this here can fill up full of oil up in here. And that's how it separates air from oil. So that's how it works. And then it sucks oil back in through this little one-way valve right here, which you need to make sure is working correctly also. So when there's a vacuum inside of here, it will suck the oil back in. So you gotta make sure that's all clear, good to go, everything's working. Those are important. So this one here, I didn't quite look at it yet. So make sure the valve is doing what it's supposed to do. Oop, drop the key over there. Yeah, I'm not sure how the hell these things are supposed to really work, but it ain't moving, that's for damn sure. Never really screwed with these things, so usually I don't worry about them. So I'm not sure. I think this one just has, I don't think it's moved, because it looks like it has a gap up in there. very, very remote, like a 10 thou gap. So it's just kind of blocks the hole a little bit. It's not a dampener, it's not a flutter valve or something like that, it looks like. So anyway, when this has got oil in here, it will bleed back in here. The oil level is not going to be in here because it's going to be pumping back into your pump, because this is a lot higher than right down in here. So they're probably expecting this to be in an open area. Alright, well either way, they work. And you want to make sure your studs are in here and good. Now this one here, the stud's not in here right now, so but I'll come back and do that later. Let's get this thing on there so you can move on to something else, which would be that oil pump stud. Okay, remember all the cams are timed still because we haven't moved it. I'm going to take our gasket cinch. Going to goop up all surfaces, which means case, cam cover, and both sides of the gasket. So, let's go like that. Try to keep it off the cam gear as much as possible. You don't exactly have to, but it works best if it's not drenched in there. So it's a very light sealer. It's not silicone. We got a bunch of crap everywhere. It never goes away. It likes going on number one cam there, doesn't it? Alright, so we get that surface done. Then we take the cam cover surface itself, give it a quick shot. I've already filed these things down and made sure they're flat earlier. Make sure all your surfaces are good and clean, not boogered up. If they got boogers up and big gouges in them from people using screwdrivers and other assorted tools you shouldn't be using to take them off, you can go ahead and JB weld them up, let it set up, and then sand it flat. File it and then sand it flat. And that will allow the gasket to do its job, which is to seal it up and not leak, in case you forgot what gaskets are for. So this motor hasn't been butchered yet, so it's still nice and clean, and everything fits like it's supposed to, which is real nice. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's all screwed up. Alright, so make a nice even coat on here. Basically, if the gasket's got a coating on it, I don't put any more on it than that. You don't need to slobber it on there and make a big mess. So this stuff doesn't work when you got a big pile of it in there. And it's nice part if anything gets in the motor, it'll just chew up and disappear. Like silicone, that doesn't go away. Okay, now just lay this up in there. Put over each dowel pin. Now, as this hits the two sealers hit each other, they kind of stick like tack, like high tack is, but it's actually sealer. So you want to make sure you line up where the holes belong. Because if it sticks down in the wrong spot, it sticks. You have to break it free, re-lube it, put it back in. The sealer will re-melt the stuff that was already on there. So you can multi-layer it up if you have to. It's best if you don't, though. Okay, so we got that all out. Now, the next thing we want to do, while that's getting tacky, is we want to go ahead and pre-lube everything. So that means put oil on all your bushings. You can't be afraid to get oil on your fingers. It's not going to kill you. It will make you sick. You can get oil on your finger. You want to get down in the oil down inside that bushing. So stick it down in there as far as you can go. Make sure you got a good layer on the front of the bushing so it gets oil in there. If you can get all the way in the bushing, at least it's oil in the front of it. And the cam will shove it in as you go in. I always like putting a little lubricant over here where the dampener is too, just for the hell of it. And of course you got your cam thrust surface right here. Okay, that's lube. Now I go ahead and lube up the cams. The gears themselves are already lubed, but the shafts are not. So, put lube on those. Don't forget your pinion shaft. Very important. Back to our number 2. Now this one I like to get the gear teeth here, because when you put the distributor in there, it's nice not to be dry. So I put a little bit on that also. Wipe my finger off. On the cam gear, that's what they're for, wiping your finger off. So. Now if you don't have a semi-lube, then you can use a lighter grease, something that oil will melt. So you gotta make sure the oil will melt the grease. Otherwise the grease will do a lot of damage in there too. Okay, so now we're ready to put this on. So you just line it up. It should just go right on. The number 1 teeth in there slightly binding, so you just kind of rock the motor back and forth. Get everything nice and friendly with each other. So, cam cover is going on there slightly as I was rotating it. Okay, slightly hit it. Keep rotating a little bit as you go. This cover is really tight on those dowel studs. Okay. Make sure the motor turns over freely still. It does. So you know it's not bound up on anything. Very important. Okay, now we take our cam cover screws, which are all laying over here in the table. Pull those all out. So these are the original screws. So, yeah, at least drop one on the floor. So I usually take the best looking ones and put them up on top where you can see them. Take the more crappy looking ones that have a little imperfection. I mean, bury them where you don't see them. There's a real nice one there. Still got some black on it. Okay, who's missing? Exhaust pipe, way over there. Okay. Figure out what I did with the screwdriver. There it is. Jam the hammer into there helps. Okay, now I just kind of put these all in there, make sure they're all started. That way you know the gasket didn't move on you. If they won't go in the hole correctly, then you go stop and figure out what the problem is. So if you have to force them, there's something wrong. We're missing a screw. That would constitute something wrong, wouldn't it? Yep. One vacancy available. Screw's not laying on the table. There it is, laying over there in the box still. Somebody forgot to grab it out yesterday. I wonder who that could have been. Probably some slacker. Watch out for those. Okay, now just bring these down lightly. There's only a couple foot-pounds of torque there. Once again, everything goes in nice and free. Don't have to beat on it or do anything yet. We're going to beat on it, but not right now. That comes here in a few minutes. So you make sure you get all the holes filled. The only two holes that should be open are two for the generator drive gears here, or the two generator mounting screws, which we don't have. Okay, make sure they're all torqued. Alright. Just make sure everything works freely still. It does. Make sure we got cam in place still. Hear it? Don't know if you can hear that, but gotta rotate it around until the lobe comes up. Okay, they all got some clearance in there, about 10 thou, except for the number 2, which is a little tighter. Alright, so they're all good. Okay, now we get to go beat on it. We did all our double checks to make sure everything was good, so now we can go ahead and get after it. So what I do is I use an impact knocker with a correct screwdriver bit on it, and you hit it with a hammer. And as you hammer it, it compresses the threads and twists the screw at the same time, so it tightens it. So you just go like that. It rotates them and tightens them up at the same time. Oop, it falls off like that because I'm working the wrong side, doesn't help. Let's get the next one here. Yeah. See, I'm working a completely the wrong angle for me. It's for the camera. I don't even know if that's even working all that good. So anyway, just hit that thing like that, and they will tighten up on you. So anyway, you get the idea. So I'll give it about 2 or 3 hits. So this works easy when you lay the case flat on this side. So I'm going to go get a couple boards laid on, and then I'll just whack these all down tight. So we'll come back later. Okay, I got the case is up on top, or the motor up on top of two 2x4s here, which space the crank shaft up off the table, because you'll only be beating on the end of the crankshaft. And I'm going to go ahead and knock these cam cover screws in here with an impact knocker. Get better access to it now. So I usually just give them a little love tap. First you beat it in the screw head, then you rotate with your hand, you go 1, 2, and maybe 3, if it's still moving. You have to kind of judge the torque by what's going on. Obviously the harder you hit it, the more it tightens. Okay, then we go back over here and do it again, a little bit tighter. That's pretty tight. Okay, those are all in there. Make sure the crank rotates. It still rotates. Look at that. One hand. See, with all the crank laying on everything. Okay, now we got to put our breather in here. It's our tube. little bit so you can see. So it takes a little gasket in there. Should be over here in a pile. Damn thing out. There it is. Resembles this piece here, which kind of closely matches the shape of the breather. Imagine that, huh? Okay, now this surface here is nice and flat. This side here is not. So what I do is I make sure these are halfway flat by beating on them on the bench. This one's actually pretty nice. It hasn't been beat on or rubbed against. Probably because a military bike has a big bash shield underneath that protects it. But you can see where it has a little bit of marks here where it's hitting on something. Probably exhaust. So what I do is I put my sealer on here, the gasket cinch on this, like that, and then I'll use this thick 3-bond sealer on here to seal up the gaps. And it takes these little Philister head screws here with a little lock washer. So that's how we're going to do that one. So you got to use your appropriate sealers for the appropriate applications. It's up to you to figure out what those are. Alright, for me, that's that one. And this one here takes the thicker stuff. Probably should put it up where you can see what I'm doing, huh? I could see just fine. See, a little at a time. Oh, light's off. Ah, I can see better. Okay, a nice even layer all the way around. Like that. Let that dry for a minute. That way I can close up my sealer. Wipe off my finger. Find the screwdriver I need to use. Maybe this one. Yeah, I gave that time to set up a little bit. It's almost like taking a nap. You slip it on in there. Get your screws to start. There we go. Yeah, almost takes the big screwdriver. It goes squish, squish all over the place. That means you got a good layer in there. Now you might wonder why we put such a big deal about sealing up a gasket in a part that leaks oil out of it. Because that's what that hole there is for. Remember, if it leaks, if it doesn't catch in this trough in here, it can't suck back into the motor. And there's a little bit of an area here that didn't really pooch up a good layer on there, so I'm assuming that's the gasket's doing that. Alright. Then we take our rag and we just wipe off the excess so you don't see it, just like we did on the case parting lip. One advantage of this 3-bone is it's gray, so if you have natural finish cases or polished cases, it kind of disappears. But on black cases, it really sticks out. Something about that white and black thing, you can really see it. There you go, nice and clean. Alright, so that's how that looks there. Pretty nice, simple, good to go. Okay, we're going to work on the oil pump next. We'll be back in a minute. Okay, I'm going to work on our oil pump now. So this is our raw body. This is the thick, double thick one. All your military bikes use the big thick one. The trikes use the thin one. The ULs use the thin ones. And the later trikes use the thin ones. All your 40s and 50s solo 45s use the thick pumps. The difference is this takes the big tall valve. I don't know what the hell really matters because the pump itself is only as big as the vanes. This is a rotary vane pump. So these vanes here are the same on both pumps. So this extra capacity in here, it has to do how this relief valve and stuff works in here. But other than that, it doesn't make much difference. But they are interchangeable. Okay, here's all the little small parts down here that we're going to use. So it's all your screws and bolts and stuff, your plugs. You got your two vanes, you got your springs, and you got your new balls over here. So I am replacing the ball bearings with brand new ones. All the springs and stuff look good, so I'm going to reuse all the other parts. So like I said, that's your vane system. So first thing I need to do is before this pump can fit onto the motor, like this, you have to put this plug in right here that you can't get to because the cam cover is in the way. So this one here you have to put in beforehand, this one on the side. Now all this is just a ball bearing, so it's nothing special. So just drop the ball in there and hit it. So put the ball in there. I like to put a little bit of oil in there just so there's oil in there. And also it keeps the ball from rusting. So you go. So you take one of your two springs, stick them in there. And you take one of your two plugs, stick it on there like that, and just tighten it up. Goes like that. So these are 3/8 diameter balls, and you can see the ball bearing inside the pump now. Okay, now these here I put on with an impact knocker. So you can use the same one we did on the cam cover, which is a little bit narrower, or you can use the big one. Right here, it's a lot wider, and that fits in there better. I also trimmed this one down a little bit to fit in there a little bit easier. So this one's a 1/2 inch drive, so I use my adapter to get onto my 3/8 knocker. Simple. Okay, I'm going to put this in the vise over there to hold it, because I got no way holding the pump, on the motor I mean. So I'm going to give it a quick whack. I'll be right back in a second. Okay, quick and simple. Plug is now tight. Okay, now you can either assemble the rest of the pump on the right now, or you can wait until you get on the motor. I usually like doing it on the motor. It's easier to beat these things in when you're on the motor, but it can go either way. It's up to you. One of these is a pressure relief valve, and one's just a check valve. So the pressure relief valve is the inner one. And if you look at the thread in there, I don't know if you can see it, but this one's threaded real deep. This one's only goes in there about a 1/2 inch. So that shows you kind of difference. This is your plunger spring, and this is your adjustment for your oil pressure. As you collapse the spring down, you get more oil pressure. As you unjack it, you get less. So you can change it. So this is the adjuster for it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in right now because it's easy to do it right this second. So same deal, you want a little bit of oil in there. We'll put a little oil on both of them. We'll put both balls in right now. So you go 1 ball, 2 ball. And we have 1 light spring, goes on the outside. And then we take the square-headed plug on the outside. Put that on down. Goes down like that. Okay, now the heavy spring right here goes in next. Make sure the ball's still in there, didn't fall out. That goes in. And you take your adjustment screw, put it in. Now it doesn't hurt to put a little bit of oil on that for lubrication on the threads so they're not dry. They tend to want to eat into the threads as you go down because they get burrs in them. This one usually takes a medium screwdriver, not the big one. Just go ahead and get it in there and just screw it on down. Now the stock dimension is 3/8 of an inch down. This one here was pretty much in there about a 1/2 inch, I think. It was pretty deep in there, so I guess they want a lot more oil pressure on this one. That might be worth another 1/4 of a pound. Okay, so there's your adjustment screw in there. That's in there, yeah, about 7/16. So I'll go a little bit deeper on this one. Yeah, we're in there about that deep. Now if you want to know how deep that is, you got to take your 6-inch scale, which we left laying over there. We got to measure it, so we have to get something to measure with. So what I do is I take the old bolt, stick it in there like that, put your thumb on the bolt, pull the pump away, take your 6-inch scale and measure it, then you know how deep it is. So right now we are, if you look at it, we're just over 3/8 of an inch. So that's a good spot to be, I think. Okay, then you take the round-headed plug and it goes over that hole. Use the bigger screwdriver. Okay, that's in. Now I'm going to hit these with an impact knocker once I get in the motor, but for now I can't do that. Excuse me. Next thing we got to do is we got to put the lube here for our vane and put our plunger and vane in here. Now the actual oil pump surface is only the first 1/2 inch in here. If you look at it, it's machined kind of right there. Goes in about a little hit like my finger to the shoulder. So all that stuff inside doesn't do anything. It just basically just kind of keeps this semi-close where it belongs, because that just sits in there and rattles around. The actual vanes are what makes the pressure. Now these are the 2 vanes. Right here you got, they're the same, the vanes are the same on both sides. You got a spring in the middle. They're both the same piece, so no different. So that's what they look like. You want to make sure they're not worn real heavy on the sides. It's like any oil pump, if they got a bunch of grooves through here, it's not going to work very well. So these ones are in really nice condition. So this whole motor's in pretty nice condition. It's not a real high mileage motor, and it was always taken care of, which means they kept nice thick oil in there like they should. Okay, I put a little oil in there, put a little bit in the bottom, just to make sure there's something back there. Then you take the plunger and drop it in there. Okay. Then you take your vanes, the L shape goes up, and you just stick them in the hole. Usually what I do is I just compress them, I put them in there like that, and I just roll them down. Pretty straightforward. It's light tension, so it's not very much. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of oil and lubricate the face of that, just to make sure there's some on there. No biggie. Okay, so the pump is good to go. It's ready to go on. I'm going to wipe off the oil off the gasket surface though. Somebody had oil all over their thumbs when they put the vanes in there. See, if you don't keep your fingers dry, the stuff that you don't want to be lubed gets lubed. One thing about gasket cinch, it does not like to stick to oil. Okay, there you go. Now, we've got to make sure we get all our hardware here. So we have 3 studs and a bolt. So there's the bolt. Good lock washer for your bolt. You got a short nut, like this one, short one, and a lock for it. Then you have a taller nut with a washer for it. And then we have a real tall nut that we need a lock washer for it. Now this stud came out of the case, that's why it's missing out right in here. So I'm going to go ahead and put some Loctite on this. When I screw it down, it should stay in. Next time it should unscrew normal. So basically it's like a bolt right now. Okay, so we need to go ahead and get some gasket goop on this to seal it. And we go get our gasket. Now I don't know why they give you 2 gaskets, because it only takes 1. So I have no idea what the hell they're doing here. I'm sure they had a plan. I don't know what the plan was. So I think this is the stock looking one. Make a quick look and see if I get an original one. Let's see here. Alright, here's some original gaskets that my dad used to sell. Guess I now have to sell them. I like these old original gaskets, they work really nice. Okay, so there is the original Harley Davidson gasket. These are made out of like onion paper. At least that's what it was always called in the old days. Whatever it is made out of, it's really good stuff. So you can see how it has no slots in it, like this one. So we use this one here. Make sure it has all the right holes in there. It appears to have all the correct holes in the correct locations. That is always a good sign. Now you see how this onion paper one is shrunk up because it's 65 years old. But you put a little bit of water on there, it swells right back up. It works good. So there you go. This will be good in another 50 years. That gasket there, we don't know. It's probably going to be old and brittle and be a piece of crap. This one will still be good in another 50 years because it's already 60 years old and still good. That's why I like these old gaskets. They will still work. I'm sure James has a different theory on that though. But I don't care what they think. Okay, so we're going to take this, we're going to put our goop on there. And we're going to use this thick-ass gasket. Now, thick-ass gaskets means you lose oil pressure. Because these are a lot thicker than those onion paper ones, like probably double. So they unload your oil pressure area and allow it to bleed through that gap. Not the best thing in the world. So even though the gaskets look the same thickness, or I mean the same shape, they're not the same because they're thicker. Okay, so gasket's gooped. I am not going to goop up anything else because I don't want any more sealer on this motor than that. So we go ahead and drop this down. It helps to put it on the correct direction. Yes, it does. So you have to line everything up. Stand a little closer, you might be able to see better, I'm not sure. There you go. Make sure it all lines up, all the holes are good, and all that lines up like it should. Okay, now we're going to take this pump, flip it over, lay it in there, and if you notice it doesn't go down. Now you don't take a big hammer and start beating on the damn thing. The problem is you got the 2 drive titties on the pump here, which are now, they're called dogs, and they must engage inside this pump rotor or it won't turn. And if you look at it right now, they're not lined up at all. So you can go ahead and turn the motor or turn this until they line up and put them down. If you guessed right, great. Or you just go ahead and put it down like this, put pressure on it, rotate the crank, and when they line up correctly, it should go right down. Except on this one, it doesn't want to. There it goes. the way. And it still rotates. There you go. Nice and simple. Now if you beat on with a big hammer like I've seen done, it kind of makes bad parts out of good parts. So don't do that. Okay, thin nut goes down here, because there's plenty of room to get to it. Your bolt goes right up here where there's no stud sticking through. This stud here with the big tall nut goes right here where the pump is really tall. You know, we want to put a little Loctite on there. Now, I don't want to get too carried away on the Loctite, so I'm going to use some light duty stuff. So this is a little light duty, medium strength Loctite. Okay, that goes in there like that. And then the last nut right here goes over here where you don't need the real tall nut, but you need something taller than nothing. See, they make it so you can actually tighten these things up when they're all hidden down in shoulders and stuff. Modern bikes, they don't care. They just make you have special wrenches. Now, a lot of times these ears will get broken off on these pumps, especially this little thin one over here, because they didn't, same deal, they didn't get the damn dogs lined up. Motor still rotates, that's good. Okay, pop this around so you can see it. Damn wood out of the way. Trying to get it where you can see. Probably failing miserably at that. But basically this ear right here is the one that gets broken off all the time. Because like I just tell you, they don't know how to engage dogs in the slots. See how this nut here gets it up high enough you can get a hold of it? This big tall one over here has to clear that big tall shoulder. So that's why they do it that way. Yeah, there's a good spot. Okay, so now I go ahead and take these down fairly evenly to make sure everything is good. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little torque. That one's got something wrong with it. That did not feel very good. My guess is their threads in that cover are a little lacking. Yeah, a little soft on the old torque. Now, I could have left it and hit it, not tell anybody, deleted the video, or I can fix it. So we're going to go fix it. So more likely we're going to have to heel quote. We might be able to put the stud in deeper and make it work that way. We'll see in a minute here. Okay, didn't tear the gasket, good. Alright, so the threads look like they're alright. So let's go ahead and pull this out and see what we got to work with here. Got an 1/8 inch of thread hanging out. I'm going to go ahead and pull this stud out this time. Yeah, there's the problem. The nut only had 2 threads that was in there. So this nut is bad, and the stud is bad. So we got 2 bad parts that need to be rectified. And those threads are not looking the best of quality in there. Let me blow them off a little bit first. Okay. So it appears that the threads in the nut are definitely not the best, but they might be able to save the nut by putting a tap in there and cleaning them up. I'll try that. This stud here is junk because his threads are gone off of it. So these here, what I was feeling, giving up on the tension. So I'm gonna go ahead and get another stud and see if I can fix this nut or find another nut. So for now, we're done on this for right this minute.